But then we come to the monster blade. That's the blade shape you get. This is what it should look like.
One of the things that I've found researching the 11th century is that I actually prefer the earlier centuries. So I'm really glad that you've got a Seax here as well.
Yeah.
Or a Sax, isn't it? It's spelt Seax, and
I don't
possibly
know.
pronounced Sax.
Somebody out there knows how to say it. I'm not sure I do.
They're probably in the grave 900 years ago.
Yeah, I actually use both. Sax and Seax.
Yeah.
So it's this one here, which is 9th, 10th century. So worn on baldric. Just watching my microphone. But again, what's interesting about this is it flaps around.
Yeah.
That would be a horrible thing to wear.
Yeah.
So they didn't leave it there. There would then be a belt that goes over the top of that.
Sure.
So not integrated in the harness itself, separate to the harness. So you just cinch it down with the belt.
Yeah.
And then at that point, suddenly, you get rid of an awful lot of the wobble.
Yeah.
So the scabbard work is based on a composite of examples. So there aren't that many Sax scabbards available for us. But, you know, we've pulled out decoration here like this, which is taken from 2 or 3 different examples and just put together here for a piece that works for, frankly, my own commercial reasons.
Yeah,
you know, because if this was all fantastically interlaced beasts or something like that, brilliant, but you can't reproduce it for any kind of decent money.
Yeah.
Little bit of brass edging here, just sort of slowly flaring out here. Dot and circle, which is like everywhere through, I don't know, from Roman times all the way through to 17th century, they're still using dot and circle. Anyway, so that's fine. But then we come to the monster blade.
Yeah.
And you will be familiar with the Saxon of Beagnoth.
Yes.
A handful of that.
So that's in the British Museum, and it was taken out of the Thames.
Yes.
This is the same size, but slightly different.
Yeah. So Saxon of Beagnoth, even if the words don't mean anything to you, you will know the pictures. It's a sax, same length as this, same thickness, same dimensions. However, it is completely covered on both sides with inlay, and I can go on about Saxon of Beagnoth for decades. But one side is completely geometric inlay. The other side is really interestingly, actually, it's just runes, but it's actually a primer. It's their equivalent of Anglo-Saxon equivalent of A, B, C, D, E, F, G going through. It's like really weird. And then there's a little plaque on it that says Beagnoth. So it's either the maker or the owner. So Saxon Beagnoth. But what's interesting about that? Can I nick that off?
Yeah, go on.
What's interesting about the Saxon Beagnoth is it's almost flat on the bottom edge, and this front break comes down very steeply. And when people do reproductions of it, that's the pattern that they're familiar with, and that's the pattern they do. But actually, there's a crack at this point running about 2/3 of the way through the blade, and this whole tip has rotated around, and that's what gives it the shape that people know as Saxon Beagnoth. If you make a cardboard template and you remove that split and you return that material where it should be, that's the blade shape you get. This is what it should
look like. So, I mean, as a 15th century reenactor, this is a very common blade type. You see it on messes and falchions and all that sort of thing. So
yes, but no.
Yes, but no. Go on then. Tell me.
So if we take got to cleave the falchion somewhere, but it doesn't really matter. But if we take a falchion like this, right? What you want, what you've got, is a broad blade. And it's quite a long way out from the handle.
Sure.
If you've got a lot of mass there, then it's gonna be massively unbalanced. You need a really big pommel, and everything goes a bit wrong. So what falchions tend to do is they start at maybe 5 or 6 millimeters, maybe even a bit more thick at the spine. And then they very rapidly drop down to 3.5, 4. Over the first 120, 150 millimeters. And then they come down from there. So by the time you get to the end, falchions can be 2.5, 3 millimeters thick. So actually, you've got a distal taper that is, to all intents and purposes, starting thick, going thin. Broken back saxes weren't like that.
This is
so they
basically the same all the way down.
But no, it's not. Look carefully.
Oh, so it's getting thicker.
It's thicker
towards the point of percussion.
Yeah. So actually, a broken back sax, it starts thinner,
Yeah.
and the thickest part of the blade is right up here,
Okay.
up at the break, which, as a 15th century reenactor, is totally counterintuitive.
Yeah.
And what it does mean is it is not a balanced blade in anything like you'd be used to. It is absolutely point heavy, but that is absolutely what they were.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a curious thing.
Yeah. Well, this is in researching 11th century stuff, I've completely fallen in love with the earlier stuff, the Saxes, the Vendel period armor. It's really cool, and to a certain extent, if anything, is the Dark Ages. It feels to me like the early medieval, you know, the 10th century onwards is where we're starting to get.
Yeah,
I really lose that.
I don't know, but I've got like a little personal theory. I haven't read a lot about it, so I might be talking junk.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that when you're up in the 9th century, and even the 10th century with Viking, Saxon stuff and so on, is the blades still had a semi-mythical, semi-religious connotation to them. So people would name their blades. They'd hand them down. If a great warrior died and it was buried with him, you know, you go up there and you break into the grave mound and you take your sword.
Yeah.
And they had a spiritual value to them.
Yeah.
And somewhere around about 950, something like that, that spiritual, semi-religious connection with a weapon seemed to pass.
Yeah.
And then they started to become tools.
Yeah.
And so things like the pattern welding seem to start falling away. The naming of swords starts to fall away.
Yeah.
And you just end up with more utility things. You just end up with tools.
Yeah.
So by the time you get to 1066, you don't have the fantastically decorated pieces like this. You know, even high-born stuff isn't dripping in gold and gems and things.
Yeah.
If you got high-born stuff 100, 150 years earlier, you would absolutely know that owner was like up there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, they're interesting. But the other thing I find fascinating about Saxes is structurally they seem absolute crap.
Yeah.
And I'll explain what I mean. Because you've got quite a long handle, and there's very few sax handles in existence.
Yeah.
So you can only sort of interpret.
Yeah.
But it seemed to be that they had quite long handles on. But then you have the tang of the blade, which is really quite wide. And obviously it's not a slab tang, it's a whittle tang, so it goes in. But it starts really wide and it comes up maybe to about here. They're not that long.
Yeah.
And so actually you've got not that much material resisting a blade, which is meant for striking, not stabbing.
Yeah.
And the short saxes and long saxes are the same.
Yeah.
So structurally, it just seems like a really weird choice. And the other thing that's really, so in fact, what I've done is I've made sure this has got a through tang, which is not correct at all.
Yeah.
However, I export, for instance, a lot of things to America.
Yeah.
And, you know, if they're clearing brush with this or something, which you should not do, that is not what it is for. But, you know, people do whatever. A sax just won't take that. It is a fighting knife. It is not a garden clearance thing.
Yeah.
It is not a fence post chopper. You know, it's not what it is. So I've got the tang coming through and then fixed off with this fitting at the end just to make sure it's all good.